All right, let's take you here now. The National Assembly will vote on the motion of the DA to establish an ad hoc committee on Phala Phala. The motion put forward by the Democratic Alliance will not only look at the president's alleged role, but also how members of his cabinet and the state institutions may have been involved in an alleged cover-up after the theft of a large sum of foreign currency from his farm. Now let's get what is likely to happen today. We're now joined via Zoom by our reporter, Abra Barbier. Abra, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Now, during the debates yesterday, it was clear most opposition parties are in favor of this ad hoc committee, but the ANC has called for ongoing investigations to be allowed to do their work. What time are proceedings expected to start, and also what are we likely to expect?
Nati, good afternoon. Sorry about that. The House is currently sitting. It's a full session today. It started at 2 o'clock. And just based on the times of the debate that's happening at 2, and then we have questions to, I think, ministers in the economic cluster, that takes us to about 6:30. And the National Assembly is quite strict when it comes to keeping time. So we are expecting my portion of the sitting to start at around 6:30. And that's, of course, when the voting will begin. And the reason the voting is happening today and not yesterday after the debate, as what it usually does, is because yesterday was a mini plenary session and decisions cannot be taken during a mini plenary. It can only be taken during a full sitting of the House. So that's why we have the debate or we have the vote happening today. I think I mentioned in my script yesterday, it looked like many of the opposition parties agreed with the DA's motion. The PAC didn't actually give any input. All that the PAC said was, we agree. It was Good who agreed with the ANC that this motion is unnecessary and that there's no need for an ad hoc committee. And of course, that is because these parties, that being the ANC and Good, believe that there is currently a process underway. And that, of course, is the process which kicks off with an independent panel of 3 who will look at whether there is enough evidence for a Section 89 process to then kick off. And that is essentially an impeachment process. So the ANC believes that all other investigations happening outside of Parliament should go ahead and should be given the space to do what needs to be done to then get to a conclusion at the end. And then, of course, they believe that the Section 89 process should also be given the space. But as you did correctly mention earlier, the DA's argument and that of many of the parties supporting the DA is that the Section 89 process will only look at President Cyril Ramaphosa's role and whether there is evidence that he had as basically is in breach of his constitutionally mandated role, whereas the ad hoc committee, if it is agreed today that it will go ahead, the ad hoc committee will look at members of the cabinet who were possibly involved in covering up the theft, as well as state institutions. And the DA, if I recall correctly, the DA specifically mentioned National Treasury, I think SARS, as well as SAPS. They feel that those institutions and the role they played in this entire saga should also be investigated. And many of the opposition parties believe that Parliament is the institution that has the power to summon all of these institutions and cabinet ministers before it to, of course, get to the bottom of what exactly happened in 2020 at the president's farm. Nati?
All right, Abra, just on that point, also just to clarify for the benefit of our viewers, as you've rightfully pointed out, the 3-member panel will obviously look at just President Cyril Ramaphosa. But in as far as this motion is concerned, they'll also look at cabinet members, as you've rightfully pointed out. But let's talk about just some of those cabinet members that have been mentioned even in the past. We know that, of course, Deputy Minister Zizi Kodwa was cleared, on the Phala Phala allegations by the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence. Just talk to us about what other ministers they are looking into.
Look, I don't want to go into much about that because at the moment, as the motion stands, only Zizi Kodwa was mentioned by the DA, and he was cleared previously by one of the committees. I forget off the top of my head, I just forget exactly which committee it was. And the DA did mention all of that in its motion leading up to the debate yesterday. So going forward now, once we hear what which way the vote goes today, if an ad hoc committee is established, then terms of reference will be, it will be given terms of reference and a scope will be given. And from there, it will be decided which names should go onto its investigative list and which state institutions and departments should also be looked at. So I think we need to wait until if the committee is established and then who they are going to include on their list.
All right, Abra, let's leave it there for now. Thank you so much for your time. Abra Barbier there coming to us live from Parliament.